Alright, so this video is to show you how to clear the fault that's going to come up eventually for you that says something along the lines of abnormal furnace head fault temperature or something like that. And the reason you're going to get that fault is because there's some brushes, carbon brushes, that are used to measure temperature up under this cover, and they get dirty. They're made to wear down. They rub on the brass shaft of the motor of the shaft that comes down off the stove head. They get dirty, so they quit registering temperature properly, so you have to take sandpaper, clean the brass back up so that they can actually read properly, and clean the brushes, and then go back behind everything with a wet cloth and all. This video is for me just to kind of show you how to do it. Again, it's going to be behind that cover, and I'll kind of guide you through. I was actually talking during these videos, but you couldn't hear me. Here I'm telling you, this is a good time to go ahead and replace the top also right here. You see how dirty mine is, so it's a good time to go ahead and take care of everything at once, and I'll walk you through that process as well. Here's the 4 screws you're going to want to take out. They're 4 Phillips head screws, pretty easy. Just slide the cover off like that, and you'll see the brushes behind it. Alright, so here's the brushes, and as you can see, there's I'm going to get in closer for you. There's a couple wires coming off of it going back to a temperature controller, those wires right there. And they're reading through the carbon brush on the other side, and I'm going to zoom in, and you'll see how it's touching that brass shaft right there. Well, so what you have to do basically is you'll want to take a piece of 400 grit sandpaper, and you're going to want to hold it to the side of that brass shaft so it's touching it, and you'll want to spin it, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. You can spin the head, and you can actually polish that up and just keep changing the sandpaper out, until you get it pretty clean for the most part. And then, like I said, you also want to clean the brushes. This is how you can spin the head by hand. So you see how the brass is turning. So you can actually just hold the sandpaper up against it as you rotate that with your fingers, and that'll help you. And again, you'll clean the brass, and then you'll flip the sandpaper over, and you'll clean the brushes. And right here, I'm going to show you, the brushes are actually a piece of carbon with a spring behind them with a wire attached that runs through a hole right here. So it's actually, you could pull on this wire essentially, and it's spring loaded, and that'll allow you to slide sandpaper behind it. However, I don't recommend you do that because I've done it before, and the wire actually pulled off of the brush. So just try to feed the sandpaper in the best you can behind the brush. You can do it, it's just kind of a pain. You'll want to tear little small strips to get on the brush side. Now for the brass side, you just hold it against it. This is after I've polished mine up. You can see it looks really good. You take everything, like I said, brush it up, and then you'll go back behind it with a wet cloth and wipe it up, because you'll have a lot of sandpaper residue, the powder basically everywhere, and you don't want that. Right here, I'm going to show you on the other side. I'm just showing you, make sure that the brushes are touching the brass when you get through, because if you're not careful, if you do pull on that spring-loaded piece, sometimes it won't go in far enough, and it'll give you a error immediately when you power the machine on. Right in here is where you'll put the sandpaper at. It's best placed, and you can spin that shaft. Alright, and this is how you do the top. This is the best part. Just take the screws out, lift it off, and you need to clean all of the underside of this with 400 grit sandpaper. But for now, you can put a spare one on. This is where the sugar actually melts at. You want to get most of this black, brown stuff out, melted sugar, and more importantly, get all this off around the rim, because the piece that you just took off has tiny holes in it, little grooves, and sugar slings out through those grooves, and this part's supposed to be flat, and you can see that it's not right now. So see the little grooves right there, and the sugar will sling out as it melts inside there. So get all that up, sandpaper it off, wipe it out with a wet cloth. Same thing here, get it as smooth as you can, get all that black off as much as you can, and just wipe it all up. This is after I've done mine. You can see I've done it, and I've wiped everything up with a little wet cloth. You don't have to be perfect with it, more particularly inside where the sugar melts, but around the edge is where you really want to get everything the best, so that surface, and I'll show you, I don't know what I'm telling you here, but like I said, just wipe it up real good. Make sure you clean it and put it all back down. The screws right here, I like to polish them up by taking the sandpaper, laying it on the floor, and I'll show you how to do that right now. You just rub the screw on the top of the sandpaper, and that'll kind of polish those up a little bit. They don't have to be perfect, but polish them up, put them back in. You don't have to over tighten them, just tighten them all down. I like to go into crisscross patterns, so one, jump across to the next one, vice versa. And there's the grooves. You can see the little holes, how the sugar can sling out of those holes now. So that's the goal, is just to make sure that surface in between there is clean. And that's really all there is to it. Maybe that'll help you and make your life a lot easier.